Okay, if we have an equation written in the form y equals mx plus c, the m in this stands for the gradient. So in other words, the coefficient in front of the x is our gradient. So if we had the example y is equal to 3x plus 1 and we were asked what the gradient is, remember we said that the coefficient in front of the x is the gradient, so the gradient of this line is 3. If we had y is equal to negative 6x plus 2, what is the gradient? Well, we're looking for the coefficient in front of the x, so the gradient here is negative 6. So let's look at the examples from the textbook. The first one, not too hard, so the first example, y is equal to negative 2x plus 3. Remember, the coefficient in front of the x is our gradient, so the gradient of this line is negative 2. Okay, let's go back up. When an equation is written in this form, y is equal to mx plus c, let's look at our second equation. It is not written in that form. We need to get it into the form where y is on its own on the left-hand side of the equation. So we just need to do a little bit of work or a little bit of moving around to get y on its own. So if I add 3x here, that cancels. I'm going to add 3x over here. So now I've got 2y is equal to 6 plus 3x. Still not right because I need y on its own, and at the moment it's 2y. 2 times y, so I'm going to divide by 2, so that cancels. And then I need to divide everything on the right-hand side by 2. So now I've got y is equal to 3, because 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 plus 3x over 2. So now I do have it in the form y is equal to mx plus c. I've got y on its own, and on the right-hand side I've got a term with the x and a term without x. Even though this is written around the other way around, the term with the x is second, that doesn't matter, they're still both on the right-hand side. Remembering, our gradient is the coefficient with the x. So what's with the x? 3 over 2. So our gradient is 3 over 2. Okay, our third example, y is equal to 4. Y is equal to 4. Remembering, when it's in the form y equals mx plus c. With this one, we can actually, there is no term with the x. So we could also write it like this. There is no term with the x plus 4. I think if we wrote it like that, then you could see that the gradient, remember the gradient, we look for the coefficient with the x. The gradient is 0. So for an example like that, if it's just simply y equals 4, there is no term with the x, our gradient is 0. So the trick to watch here, we need it in the form y equals mx plus c. This first one was in the form, so it was relatively straightforward. We just looked for the coefficient with the x. With this second one, we had to rearrange the formula to get y on its own. And with the third one, we just needed to recognise that there was no term with the x, so 0x, so our gradient was 0.